In this video, we're going to learn how to use the Describing and Exploring Categorical Data Shiny app. The first thing you want to make note of is how many sets of data are you working with? Is it one categorical variable or two? Up at the top here, if you need to toggle between one and two variables, you would click accordingly. It defaults to showing you the one categorical variable on the left. In this app, there's a few things that you want to make note of. Over here on the left side, where it says Enter Data, you can choose between using a data set from the Data Center textbook, entering a frequency table, in which you would have to adjust the variable and the categories, or you can type in the individual observations. You have a few options in how you can enter this information. If you already have your data on a spreadsheet, you can copy and paste it over, or again, you could use a frequency table if it's already organized for you. So what I have here is a set of data that's going to look at a survey conducted on what grocery store people do their primary shopping at. Let's take a look. So I've gone ahead and brought over the data, and now I'm going to show you how you can enter this data instead of using textbook data that they give us. So the first thing I'll want to do is change the name of the variable to primary grocery store, or primary store, which Delawareans use for food shopping. This should just be something descriptive so that if you have only this chart alone, this readout, that you know what that data represents. So for example, if we no longer have the data set on the right here, we would still want to be able to know what this variable represents. So if I want to copy and paste in my observations, the other option would be to type them one at a time. Something you want to be mindful of here is that this is going to be case sensitive. So if you write, let's say, bird with a capital B and bird with a lowercase b, you'll notice that it splits it into two categories. So just make sure if you are using this method that you use case sensitivity and everything is capitalized in the same way consistently throughout. So what I'm going to do is come into the spreadsheet here. You can also do this out of a Google Sheet spreadsheet. It doesn't just have to be from Excel. And I'm going to click and drag to highlight all of the data that I have. I'm then going to copy that data and then come over here and paste my data. So you'll notice it already has prepared this for us, though unfortunately we have a little issue here with food lion being separated into two, even though it's one name. So what that tells us is that you're going to have to go back into your data set, and anywhere you have food lion, remove the space in between it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here to correct that and then show you what it would look like. But the nice thing is it gave us an instant readout, so we can immediately catch that there's a problem there. Now you can see that we've corrected the spacing between Trader Joe's and Food Lion. We can actually see how each of those categories has its frequency count and so on. So when you're working through and you have your bar graph here, that's not the only graph that's available for the one categorical variable data. There's also different customizations that you can make here. And I want to show you a few of those options. So any graph, as we know, should have a descriptive title. In order to change the title, you can click on this button down here under Modify and Include. You could also change to color the bars or select colors. That means you can basically change it into whatever color organization scheme you'd like. But more specifically, the part that's probably important here is to look at the title and subtitle. So if you want your graph, again, to be standalone, right? This should have a similar title, something that's descriptive. Maybe it talks about the, I don't know, the survey that we had conducted. So maybe I'll call this the frequency of primary grocery store shopping in Delaware. And then you could make other adjustments if you'd like, but this generally would be descriptive. So again, the more descriptive you are, the better that it's going to be as a graph, because then it's going to leave no ambiguity to the reader or whatever someone is trying to learn from it. You have other options over here on the left. You can do show the counts or percents, so that shows you the frequency on each bar. So perhaps if you were trying to use this as just an image file and not an interactive, see how we can hover over these and it shows us the counts and the percentages. If you're using this in a report, then you could clip it. It shows you the frequency and it takes the guesswork out for whoever's reading this. You can also include percentages if you want, and you would do that in lieu of a frequency on the y-axis here, but I would recommend not using percent unless you specifically need the relative frequencies, because those are also given in the frequency table up above. If you wanted to organize this as Pareto chart, you could do that. That just means it's going in descending order from highest frequency to lowest frequency. You could choose to do this horizontally, and you could specifically customize the order if you wanted. You would just have to list out the categories. Again, unless there's something specific you're trying to show, there is probably not too much that you're going to be changing on this. Now, you could also, just for simplicity, I'm going to pull the select colors off here. You could see down here at the bottom where it says pie chart or donut chart. If you wanted a circle graph, that's also known as a pie chart, if you select that box, you'll see it pops up for you, or similarly a donut chart. It just looks like a donut instead of a full circle. And then same thing, you could modify that title if you wanted, something similar. Just remember that your pie chart, of course, is going to show you the relative frequencies. It no longer shows you the exact frequencies. Now, using the two categorical variable section of this app is still very similar. I'm going to use, for the sake of time here, the from textbook data, and you notice that they have quite a few different options here. So I'm just going to select, let's see, diamonds, right? So what this portion of the app is doing is it's showing you the comparison between two sets of data. So this time they're comparing good cut to fair cut. And then there's other options that you have here. So you could use a joint distribution, select that if you wanted. You could change your row variables, your category names if you were so inclined. You could do the show counts, much like we did on the last one. Same thing if you wanted to modify the title. You select title, so you choose colors, captions. You could also do this as a stacked bar chart, though that's not necessarily going to help you if you're trying to do a comparison between the specific categories of good and fair. So this would be a good set, a good graph, I guess, to look at if you were trying to compare, again, two categorical variables, but or multiple categorical variables where you have samples from each. So all of the stuff on the left here, and that's referring up here where they're talking about good cut, these are all diamonds that were classified as a good cut, and then from that, they're breaking it down into the clarity. So that's these different bars that you have. So for example, an I category, right? That means these are good cut I category clarity of that diamond. And then you could compare that count to what you had with the fair counts in that nature.